Right then, Tricycle project, part, is it 6 or 7, Math?
I think it's 6, isn't it?
Part 6. We haven't done one for ages, have we?
No, it's been a while.
It's been a while. The last one we did was our walk around, but it wasn't dedicated to the Tricycle. So we're going to do another one now of what's updated. They're in the right lot because Tricycle is done, basically. It's just a case of looking after it, maintaining it, and doing a few more mods if they're reasonable. So one of the problems, you want to come in here, Matt? One of the problems I've had over winter layup is when I came back to start the car, it started up fine, and then my electric fuel pump started rattling like mad, and I knew that the noise it was making was as if it were pumping air. And I've just got these are the fuel pumps. These are Kawasaki ZX Ninja fuel pumps, which is what I've got on both the van and this Tricycle. And I have just noticed they've got like 10mm inlet and outlets, and they make this really loud rattling noise when they're pumping air. And what had happened was, I don't know if you can get in and see this, the pipe that attaches to the filter on the pump, it was this pipe, and it was my fault. This was too narrow, really. You could get it on the fitment, but really it was too narrow. And for 18 months it was working fine, and then it split and tore where it was stretching too much. And so it drew in air, and it got a vacuum leak inside the pump. So I've had to fit this extra piece in. You can see this extra piece, which is a larger bore. Then I've got a reducer part in there. I pushed it on as far as I could get it on. It really hard to get on, but it's clipped on tightly, and now everything's fine. So that was one little problem that I had. So that's not a big deal. And then if you look at this, this is a modification that I've done, and I got this off one of the Reliant forums a few years ago. A chap had fitted an anti-roll bar on a Regal, and they don't have them as normal. It looks a bit Heath Robinson, right? But if you're close in here, there's a gap. Can you see this gap here? All Regals have this, between the shell and the chassis member. So I was able to fabricate all this out of angle metal. It's all bolted on tight, it's not going anywhere, look. And using later Reliant joints here. And this is the front anti-roll bar off a kitten. So I've managed to make this anti-roll bar on here. The chap who did it used to do hill climbs, believe it or not, in his Regal saloon. There's photographs of him doing it, right? And he had this on here, and he swore blind it made a massive difference. And I thought, well, if he's hill climbing, it must make a difference, right? Because they don't have to chuck them out on some of these really, really muddy stretches. Anyway, so I fitted all this, and I noticed a difference when I was rocking the car, when it was standing still. But I'll be honest, I don't notice much of a difference when I'm driving it. So because this is all bolted on, I've not had to drill anything. I've not had to drill any of the body, I haven't had to drill any of the chassis. It's all bolted to this, so this all can be all unbolted and go back to complete standard, and you'd never know it had been on. So for now I'm leaving it on. It might be that it is going to provide a benefit, but I'm not driving it, I'm not chucking it about hard enough. Do you know what I mean? I do notice a difference when I bounced it, because I bounced it like hell before I fitted the car to see what it was like, and then when I'd fitted it I noticed it helped that. It had stiffened it up in that respect, but when I'm driving it I don't really notice much of a difference, to be honest. It took me ages to do this, and if I'm honest, I don't think it was worth doing. But I'm going to leave it on there for now. It's not doing any harm. So that's that one. Do you want to get underneath there?
Yeah.
So you can see it's got all the proper Reliant kitten sized bushes in here. You know, it's absolutely solid, it's not going anywhere. And the idea is that when you turn a corner and you go down on one side, the other side helps pull on these to try and keep it straight. Like I say, I can't say I notice a night and day difference when I'm driving, to be perfectly honest. Another little thing that I've done, I don't know if you can see it here, Raf. Can you see here? Can you see the lowering blocks that have been fitted?
Just move your hand a bit. There you go, yeah, I can see them now.
Lowering blocks, look, right? I fitted 1-inch lowering blocks. If you go back to the early video 1, and have a look at the stance, I never mentioned it, but I had 2-inch lowering blocks fitted, and you might notice how lower it is at the back end. And I was doing that to try and lower the centre of gravity to see if it would help make a difference, and two, because the line of the car, when the car were parked up, it was slightly higher at the back than it were at the front, and me being a bit OCD, I wanted to try and straighten it up. And the daft thing, alright, with 2-inch lowering blocks, I suddenly found that I couldn't get the wheels on and off. Right, so I could get them off, but I had to let all the air out of the tyres, and it were right fast. With these 1-inch blocks, it's okay. 1 inch is about as far as you can go. The thing is, on Regals, you can fit lowering blocks, but on later Robins and Realitos, you can't, because the leaf spring goes the other side of the axle.
Right.
Because a lot of people say you can't fit lowering blocks to Reliance. Well, you can't on Robins Realitos, but you can on Regals. But if you're going to fit the standard size tyres, you can't go more than 1 inch. And I found that out. I thought it looked pretty good. I'm sat there.
It did look pretty stance, I'm
yeah,
not gonna lie.
I thought it looked pretty good, and I thought I was quite pleased with myself. But remember, it were rolling round on them old wheels.
Yeah.
And then when I came to take one of them off, I suddenly found I couldn't do it. So that wasn't very practical.
Yeah, well, we live and learn, don't we?
Right. Another modification. I've covered this. I haven't covered it in a tricycle video, but I did cover it on the walk around, didn't I, Matt?
Yeah, you did, yeah.
I fitted this mud flap on here. Basically, one of the jobs that I did was I took all these clamps, airframe clamps off, and I fitted new rubbers, brand new rubbers. All mine must have been the original rubbers. They were really crushed in, and you could tell they'd been on for years. They must have been original ones. They weren't wobbling, or there were no play in them, but I got these new ones, and I thought, well, let's just fit them. And when I fitted these bolts, I made sure I fitted what they call them, hex socket bolts, because you can get a hex key in the back, and it makes it miles easier to get these undone, because that was a big pain on these. Because there's a recess in here, and try and get a spanner in there on the end of a bolt, a nightmare. So that's been done. There's a big hole here, look.
Oh yeah.
Right, and if you look here, can you see there, look, that's been deliberately cut out. I thought this was accident damage at first, but I think that maybe a previous owner has suffered from some overheating, which
right.
were common on these. And the people did all sorts of bodges. People used to cut holes in front of the car, and it looks like you can see where somebody's done a deliberate cut here. This has been deliberately cut out for some reason. I think it might be to try and get more air in down here to put on the radiator. Right. But the thing with these Reliants were, over the years, when these were common as muck, and everybody were driving around in them daily, just look where wheel is, all the crap that comes from salted roads, it's going to hit all this tube, all this. And they just, over the years, they just didn't last. So now with this on here, this will never get water on it now. And it were easy enough to do. That is a useful mod that quite a few people with Reliance have done. The one on the back is probably, if I'm honest, it was too much effort for what I actually benefited, really. Right, we'll just go round a couple of the little things, a few of the other little things I've done. Right. In here, the only things I've done is I did get a new ammeter. It's the correct ammeter for the car. I did say in one of the earlier videos that I wasn't going to fit an ammeter, but once I'd gone so far with this and it was coming out so well, I thought I'm going to try and get the proper stuff. The original ammeter I had, it was far too far off. It was bugging me that it didn't point to 0. And they do have a tiny little screw on the back that you can adjust the needle, but when I tried to adjust it, it made the needle jump wildly to one way. It just wasn't working right. So I got a new one and fitted that, and that now is the correct oil pressure gauge as fitted by Reliant. That is an AC one. That's an AC one, and that's a Lucas, and that's what they did. It looks a little bit odd, one side, one being smaller and being different makes, but that's what they had. Also, this is a tiny detail. These lights were missing these rubbers at the back, and I picked them up last time I went to Beulah. They're not brand new, but they're quite good and supple. Paid a £5 for a pair. I thought that were a bargain, because you can't get them separately.
No, they're very rare.
No, you can't get them separate.
Just disintegrate.
And then the last thing, finally managed to get hold of the proper Reliant Regal 21E locking fuel cap. That is the exact one that were fitted. That's brand new, that. It cost me 25 quid, I think. That's a bargain. So, and talking of 21E, let's go through. Right, a friend of mine were good enough to give me this. This is the last, I believe this is the last brochure that Reliant produced for the Regal. It's even got the dealer stamp on here. Is it Wroxham, because I know he lives in Norfolk. So thanks again, Ian, for that. If you're watching this, if you watch this again. So it's the usual brochure that doesn't go into major detail, but what it does do is it lists all the 21 extras that the 21E had. Family comfort and a touch of luxury. Right, now these extras, I don't know if you'll be able to read that. These extras, they don't include things like Dolby stereo or air conditioning or power steering, like what you get as standard nowadays.
Yeah.
So let's have a look. Let's see which ones I've got, which ones I'm missing. Metallic paint finishing, 3 glamour tones. Glamour.
Ooh. Whoa, talking now.
So you've got these 3. I thought it were 4. Well, there's 3. These were all metallic. Manhattan Blue is my favourite. But so I haven't got that because this is a flat colour. But I have been told on good authority that in the later time of the 21E, you could order a 21E and you could have any colour. I have seen a Highland Purple Regal 21E that was genuine, so I know that to be true, because Highland Purple wouldn't have been a special colour at the time. Carpet covered fieldboards, I've got that. Carpet covered footwell surrounds. The interior paintwork matched to exterior. That's the dash. That's where the dashboard is painted the same colour as the outside. Standard Regals were just grey fiberglass. Luxury interior trim fittings. I don't really know what that means.
A bit of chrome.
Luxury, I don't know what that means. Ammeter, yeah, I've got the ammeter. Chrome plated boot hinges, yep, got those. Yep. Finely graduated oil pressure gauge, yep, we've got that. That is the correct one. Padded swivelling sun visor for driver and passenger, yep. Chromed overriders, front and rear, got them. Lucas spotlight with separate dash mounted switch, and Lucas fog light. Now, as you might know from an earlier video, I've got both for spotlights because my fog light blew, so I'm missing one of those really, but I ain't bothered because I think it looks cleaner with 2 spotlights, because the fog light looks a bit odd.
Yeah, it looks
different
now, doesn't it?
Yeah. Chrome hubcaps, yep. Decorative full circle wheel trims, got them. There's the locking petrol cap. Twin fully adjustable spring back mirrors, yep. Spare wheel, that's an extra. A spare wheel and a spare wheel cover. That I'm missing.
Yeah,
I'm missing the spare wheel cover. I know I can buy any generic one off eBay and put it on, but I wanted to see. I'm still see if I can find the proper Reliant one. I did buy one, but it went off a Robin, and they had 10-inch wheels.
Right.
And there's no way that would fit my 13.
Yeah.
So. Simulated leather non-slip steering wheel glove. Now I'm missing that, but I ain't bothered about that either, because my wheel's been beautifully restored by my mate Simon, and if you put that on, you're just covering it up.
Yeah.
So I won't find one of them anyway. Not a genuine one.
No, they're probably all gone now.
Yeah, and they've been might be rotted. Yeah. Chrome plated bonnet hinges. Notice how the bonnet hinges are different, and another extra on top of the boot hinges. And chrome filler strip in all window surrounds. Yep, fitted them. So what am I missing? Metallic paint, spare wheel cover, the spotlight, and what was the other one?
Steering wheel.
Oh yeah, the steering wheel cover. So I'm missing 4, if you want to be really, but like I say, 2 or 3 of them I'm not even bothered about.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see if I can find the spare wheel cover. So those are your 21E extras. That's for the saloon. It also lists the 21E extras for the van. The only difference being that it's exactly the same, except for the van you get gear fleck, van body interior, whatever gear fleck is. And the reason for that is you get that instead of the overriders, because if you put overriders on the back, you can't open the door.
Right, I get you. Yeah.
Right, so that's the 21E. That's your touch of luxury. Luxury. There we go, that's the brochure. Right, last thing we'll cover on this, part 6. On one of the earlier videos, there were one where we took it for a test drive, me and my mate, and we had a bad bog down session
Which is undesirable.
which is considered undesirable. The car were running rough. We were on his way to Adam's, and Adam tuned it up, and it was running fine after that. And one of the things he did was he swapped back from the original distributor to the electronic one. Anyway, what I've gone and done is, since I've been to Adam's over the summer, I swapped back to the standard one because I was concerned about the original bob weights and springs inside the Dizzy. I don't know if that'll come right off there. It will if I take the rotor off. The bob weights and springs, these things here. Now, when I swapped back to the original distributor, the car behaved fine all summer, except for one day. One day that bog down came back.
Right.
Right, and I were in Shropshire at the microcar rally, and coming home it was fine. I just pulled over, left it a few minutes, started the car up like we did before, and then from then on it was fine. But it just did it on that warm day, and I think I'm suspecting this condenser. I think this is what were wrong, because it had to be something to do with the distributor. When I got home from there, I parked the car on the drive, came back to it the following morning, and the car just would not start. It just would not start, and as soon as I switched back to the electronic one, it started instantly. So I knew it was something to do with the distributor or something within it. I think it's this condenser. So what I've actually done is, this is the body of the electronic one. So I think these electronic ones, they just fit any bob weights and springs, and then I've unscrewed the top off, and I've put the electronic gubbins into the original housing, and now I've got the electronic housing with the original gubbins.
Right.
And the car has run faultlessly ever since.
Right, that makes sense.
So I think it's this.
Yeah.
I don't know how old this condenser is, but I have been told that the new ones are absolutely crap. They're nothing like the new. You'd think new ones would be better, but apparently not. So there we have it. So that's Tricycle Project Part 6. Basically, it's done. It's just a case of looking after it and maintaining it, and might do another one after summer.
Yeah.
Depending on if anything else needs doing. All right. See you later.